Hey guys, Jam here, and in today's video I'm going to be kit bashing and converting yet another Space Wolf. Now I was planning on taking a pretty big break away from Space Wolves for a while, at least on the channel I mean, but I haven't actually done a chaplain on the channel yet, so that's what we'll be doing today, and plus this isn't a model for me. It's sort of a commission. Kaiser from Modeling for Advantage was kind of talking about not really enjoying the aesthetics of chaplains and stuff for Space Wolves, so I offered to make him one up. I mean, I always love kit bashing up some Space Wolves, so I thought I might as well give it a shot. But anyway, let's get into it. So as you can probably see on the screen by now, I'm using the Indomitus chaplain. Now weirdly, the last Primaris conversion video I did was also this Indomitus chaplain as well, so I do apologize for repetition there, but I mean it's an amazing model, and this is the one that Kaiser sent me, so I mean, you can never ever get enough chaplains / wolf priests, so I mean, it's a win-win really. So yeah, the main thing Kaiser wanted me to do really was remove a lot of the imperial iconography from this guy. Now obviously, I'm not going to do all of it because this is an easy build model and it would be really difficult and I'd have to do like a lot of chopping. I might end up ruining the model and it wasn't mine. But yeah, first step is I'm going to cut off some of the more kind of standard Space Marine iconography. So the first thing I did was got rid of some of the details on those hip guard things. I don't know what those things are called in real life, if that's actually a thing. So I just used my hobby knife, very carefully kind of slice them off and then flip the blade around and just kind of file it down a bit so it's nice and smooth. So we just got nice blank slabs of armor. I do that for both sides and then I move on to the little kind of flask looking thing, I don't know what it is, on the loincloth. This was a pretty simple one to do. I just slid the knife underneath it and it popped off really easily. Once again, just be careful not to gouge into the loincloth too much, but this will be quite easy enough to cover up. That we're going to do that in a bit as well. But I do use my hobby knife here as well to kind of shave off some of the little bits of plastic left over and just smooth out the whole area there. Then the next thing, and quite a big part of this model that we're going to shave off here, is the book attached to the back. Now in my mind, Space Wolves not really book kind of people. I mean, you could argue maybe he keeps the book to write down the sagas of his battle brothers and stuff like that. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get rid of it. It's easy enough. And it also gives us some more room later to add on some more wolfy bits. Now because this is a pretty chunky bit and it's quite a big part of the model, I mean like actually embedded into the kit because it's an easy build thing, I wasn't 100% sure how to go about cutting it off, so I just kind of felt my way around it a bit, like trying to get my hobby knife into places without damaging the body too much. I wanted to try and save the book for future kit bashes and conversions and stuff like that, but eventually I just got kind of impatient trying to get my hobby knife in there gently, so I just whipped the clippers out and just started slicing big chunks of this thing away. And then once the majority of it was gone, I went in with the hobby knife and same as everything before, just kind of clean up, smooth out a bit. But we are going to be covering this area up later, so it doesn't really matter too much how smooth it is. Alright, so at this point, I glued the model together, and to be honest, it might have been slightly easier to do the weapon options if they weren't attached to the body yet, but I mean, it was easy enough anyway. So the first thing I do is, I start cutting away the bolt pistol this guy has, because I found the old Firstborn Marine bolters, well, bolt guns, are roughly the same size as these big chunky bolt pistols that Primaris Marines have. So yeah, I just used my clippers to once again get the majority of this pistol out the way. I don't really care about keeping it for the future. Just cutting the chunks away, obviously leaving the hand and the kind of hand grip pistol-y section intact. And of course the trigger as well, that's kind of what I mean. And again, I go back with my hobby knife, just make sure everything's nice and flat and smooth. And then in the Grey Hunters kit, the old Firstborn Space Marines, Space Wolves I should say, you get loads and loads of obviously Space Wolfy bolt guns. They do have some that actually don't have the pistol grips on them. So it's super simple, little glue it on top. Didn't have to cut anything away and it fit nice and perfect there. Just gives us the extra bit of wolfy touch instead of just a bog standard bolt pistol. Now onto the most important part of this model. I said the same thing about the word bearer chaplain when I did it as well. Because of the pose, the most important part is the weapon. And in this case, this is probably the most imperial, normal space marine kind of thing on this model. So I had to get rid of the top of it. So I just chopped it off real easy. And then to replace that part, I had a few kind of options. One, I was thinking of just going for like a thunder hammer head from like a Wolfen kit or something like that. But Kaiser did also say maybe just going for an axe or something. Now, I wasn't too sure if just a plain axe would really make the model read as a wolf priest. So I had this idea of cutting up another frost axe kind of thing and making like a 4-headed axe head, which would give it a bit more of like a rounded mace kind of look to it, but still make it more like brutal and axey. But I didn't have axe heads that kind of matched up. I didn't have duplicates, unfortunately. So I ended up just going for the axe. Like I said, it's something Kaiser did mention, and it'll still look really badass anyway. So yeah, I just chopped the head off for the axe there, and I made sure I kind of chopped it in a place where there would be a lot of like surface area for it to glue to the original hand grip shaft kind of area. And from the same wolfen axe that we've already destroyed, I took the like end cap wolf tail kind of thing off as well. So we'll be sticking that on the bottom of our chaplain's weapon for that extra bit of wolfy flavor as well. And yeah, nothing too special on that one. It's literally just a snip and glue. That's all we're going to do there. And that extra bit of flavor and kind of movement to the model because of the way it's like blowing in the wind and all that kind of good stuff. And for some reason, I don't actually have any footage of me gluing the axe head on, but that's literally all I did was glue it on. I just made sure everything was nice and flat and fit nice and perfect. And yeah, that's it. Now the next kind of super easy, simple step was sticking a wolfy shoulder pad on this guy. Now I'm using this one from the old Space Wolves upgrade sprue. And the reason why I chose this one specifically is because it's got those kind of spiky, rivety kind of things on the bottom of the shoulder pad, which fits perfectly with this model with, you know, his like shin guards have got spikes, he's got spikes on his knees. So it really, really tied in with the rest of the model. The only bit of like cutting work I did was with this easy build model, that shoulder pad has a little bit of like a peg thing. So all I do is shave that down a little bit so that Space Wolfy one will fit on nice and flush. And I gotta say, man, Space Wolves, no matter how often I do these things, they're just the best models to convert. They really are. There's so much you can do and it's so fun. I mean, just look at this bad boy. I haven't done anything difficult or crazy and it looks badass already. Finally, the last easy peasy step before we start getting onto green stuffing and all that is I just take this Space Wolfy knife. I think it's probably from the Wolfen kit or Grey Hunter kit. I don't know. You get them everywhere. And I just glue that over the original place where we cut that flasky thing away from the loincloth, hiding that kind of area and also adding more Space Wolfy flavor again. And now, like I said, onto the green stuff. This is where we really start getting the character into this model. So usually when I'm doing like beards and hair and stuff, I will mix the green stuff with a little bit more yellow than the blue half. So I'll go like half of the blue to the yellow, if that makes any sense. It makes the green stuff a lot more soft and sticky and stuff, which you know helps you get that beard detail in. But if you're doing like fur with this like fur texture plate from Green Stuff World, I'll usually just go 50-50, you know, keep it standard. But I made a mistake here where I went and mixed up my beard consistency for green stuff. And when trying to do the kind of texture play here, the green stuff was super sticky and just wouldn't do it. It was just sticking into the mold and yeah, just turned into, yeah, like I said, a bit of a mistake. So all I did was I skipped this step for now and it went onto the hair and the beards first, and then by the time we go back to the texture plate, the green stuff that we mixed is going to be slightly harder and a bit more cured, so it'll be much better for this kind of stuff. So we'll come back to this in a minute. Now, as always, if you've watched any of my Space Wolfy videos or my how to do green stuff beard guide, you'll know what I'm going to be doing at this point. But yeah, if you haven't, all I'm going to do now is chop off kind of a almost triangular shape bit of green stuff, very, very small bit, stick it around his chin area, and then we're just going to get our wet toothpick to start getting it into the rough shape that we need. And as always, keep in mind the kind of flow of your model, which way is everything kind of moving. So the beard, I'm going to just kind of get it blowing a bit to the right. You know, similar kind of direction of the wolf tail on the axe. Just remember when you're getting your beard and your hair and stuff into the rough shape you want, you kind of want like big, thick strands of hair and stuff, because you got to remember it's a model and you got to paint it and everything like that. It has to pop out. I used to make the mistake of trying to make like loads of tiny little strands of hair, which really doesn't work once you're painting it up. So yeah, just get some nice thick kind of strands and wavy bits and locks of hair, well in this case beard, And then I'm going to start going in with my hobby knife. Now I usually prefer this for the kind of refining the beard a bit more. You know, I'll start smoothing out the kind of lines between the chunks and locks of hair, getting it into the like really precise kind of places I want it to be, like around the cheekbones and all that kind of stuff. I find the hobby knife is a little bit better for that kind of stuff. And now, as always, every time I seem to do beards and stuff, I always seem to get really bad footage because I think I get so into it and it's such small fine detail I kind of forget that the camera's there. So I do apologize if this doesn't look 100% great, but hopefully I've found some decent shots. Now this guy's actually looking pretty good even without a moustache, and I was kind of tempted to leave him like this. You know, it gives him that extra bit of character instead of just having a bog standard beard, but I thought I'd play it safe because once again it's not my model. So I rolled out a very thin kind of wormy sausage thing, and all I did was I used my damp toothpick to pick it up and stick it under his nose. And just follow the previous steps, you know, using your toothpick to kind of get it into the place that you want, make sure it's all kind of firmly down, and then going back in with the hobby knife to add in the actual kind of texture and hair lines and all that kind of stuff. So now the beard is done, this guy's looking pretty sweet, but we want some long flowing locks, or at least half of his head, because obviously he's missing half of his face and stuff from, I don't know, something's obviously smashed up his skull, but yeah, so we're going to do a kind of a half parting of hair. Now you can just slap down a big blob of green stuff and kind of work it around, but I've been working with a technique since I did Monsters Space Wolf video, which I'll link up now, where I actually roll out loads and loads of tiny little, once again, sausage, wormy kind of bits of green stuff, and individually place them down. Now I feel like this way you can almost get way more dynamic hair. I think I might actually go for a combination of a blob of green stuff and then kind of adding this locks of hair on top. I think that'll probably be a good combination for the future, but this is what I do for this model. So as you can see on the screen now, I've got my lock. I just kind of press it down where the kind of parting is, where the hair begins at the top, and when it's kind of stuck in place, I just kind of start moving it into the direction I want. And the reason why I like this kind of like sausagey kind of style hair is because, like I said, you can get a way more dynamic kind of hairdo. You can get strands blowing all over the place, get a strand covering his face, you can do anything you want. And also I start overlapping them as well. Obviously gives you the vibe that he's got a full head of hair, and also just looks more natural with hair just blowing all over the place. Now later we will be kind of putting texture in and blending it in a bit more, but you could actually leave it like this if you wanted dreadlocks, to be honest. But yeah, that's all I keep doing at this point, just adding more and more of these strands and stuff like that until I get it to the place that I'm happy with. Really super easy stuff here. Now as you can see, I've got a really dynamic kind of layout with the hair blowing over the shoulder and stuff like that. Once again, this is still kind of a technique I'm working on. I do feel like I'll improve it next time to get a bit more like volume underneath and stuff like that. But now it's time to actually add the detail work in and blend it all together. So first up, I want to get the kind of hairline slash parting kind of like a in line and all in the same place, if that makes any sense. Like his hair's been shaved really neatly down the middle. So you can use your toothpick or your hobby knife, whatever you want to do here, just to kind of get it in the same line, just in like your hair parting, just neaten it up a little bit. And with the hair parting section as well, I go back in with my hobby knife and I start kind of like pushing in little sections and stuff like that, because obviously it wouldn't be 100% smooth. You want to have that kind of more natural look to it. I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah, so I just push the green stuff in subsections, so then some sections it comes out, almost like a zigzag kind of pattern down the middle of the hairline there. Like I said, I'm probably not explaining this well at all, but hopefully you'll get what I mean. And unfortunately, my camera was not focusing and I got a really bad footage as usual when it comes to this kind of stuff. I really got to work on that. What I also do with my hobby knife is the ends of the hair, because right now they're like super rounded and smooth. I just take my hobby knife and kind of cut that section, scuff it up so it looks more like loose strands of hair, a little bit more. Obviously it's not 100%, but it's a little bit better than just having, like I said, a smooth blob at the end of the hair strand. And lastly, once again, a little bit annoyed I didn't get this in very clear footage here, but I took my hobby knife and I added some details into the actual hair strands again, just kind of pressing zigzaggy kind of lines across the hair strands to give the impression of kind of like the hair twisting around each other and just more texture, something more to paint on and just make it look a little bit more natural. And at this point, our green stuff was a bit more cured, a bit harder, and we could go back to using it for fur. So all I do is I get my green stuff wool texture plate here, make sure it's nice and wet, stick a blob of green stuff on there, flatten it down, use my rounded hobby knife, or you can use a paintbrush, whatever, roll it out like a rolling pin, and gently peel the fur off, and then there you go, you've got a nice perfect bit of green stuff fur, way better than doing it by hand. So first thing I do is I do a bit of a dry fit, see how much of this green stuff fur we're going to have to cut and stuff, get it to the right size basically, get a nice rough image of what we need. And while we're cutting it down to size, what I also do is I don't just cut it really smooth like here at the bottom, I just start cutting it in different strands and start pulling bits, obviously rough up the edges so it looks like fur and this leather and stuff is kind of like sprouting out everywhere instead of just like a nice super clean edge, because that doesn't look natural at all. And then the top of the fur I actually cut rounded, because when we put this on the model I'm actually going to fold that bit over on top of the fur so it looks like the flap of the leather underneath is, well, flapping over on top of the fur. Just gives it an extra bit of detail and stuff like that you can paint, instead of just a bog standard flat bit of fur like I've said now a million times. And once that's all kind of roughed up and in the shape that I want, I stick it onto the model over that area where the book used to be, so we're hiding all that messed up plastic back there. I use my wet toothpick at this point just to start adding a bit more movement to the green stuff, so I start kind of blowing it into the right direction, if you know what I mean, like get the fur kind of waving in a certain direction. I start roughing up the little bit of the leathery part, so obviously you don't want it super smooth, adding a bit of like scuffs and dimples and stuff into that as well. Now one thing I always think of when I think about wolf priests are, because they're like chaplains and apothecaries mixed together, I always imagine them having loads of like bags and lots of like healing balms and stuff like that, which I don't think I really portrayed very well in this model. But I do stick this Space Wolfy bag here with the rune on it before the green stuff sets, so I can kind of push it in there as well, so it kind of embeds it together. And while we've got the green stuff and everything out, I figured to cover up that kind of super embedded shoulder pad, because obviously I need to do a lot of cutting and dry fitting and stuff if I want to replace it with another shoulder pad, I'll just slap some fur over there as well. Now after I did it, I kind of thought, double fur maybe is too much, like, fur around the waist, fur on the shoulder pad. I probably should have just gone for like, sticking loads of like bones and trophies and stuff on there instead. But I thought, maybe it looks decent enough. I'm not really sure. Once again, it's not my model, so I'm probably just kind of overthinking this a bit too much. For my own personal army, I think this would have been pretty good. But yeah, once again, once I get the kind of fur in the rough shape that I want, I just kind of get the one edge and rough it up a bit more so it's not just a smooth bit there. And I get those kind of bits that I've cut up like flapping in the same direction as the rest of the model as well. So we got that consistent flow of wind blowing or whatever it is. Now the next thing I do to add a bit more of that Viking kind of style, but also maybe a place where he might keep some, I don't know, some healing liquids or something, I'm going to add a horn to this guy, similar to what I did to Monster's video as well. And again, I'm going to be using this one, I think it's from the Age of Sigmar Chaos Warriors or something like that. And first up I'm going to use my clippers, remove the hand from this, like get the bulk of that out, slice that away, get rid of like the excess with the hobby knife, kind of smooth it over, and then I just cut off the kind of side spiky bits from the Chaos arrows, because obviously you don't want it to look like anything chaosy at all. And then that horn is pretty much ready to go. Now obviously because of the position I want to put this, I have to use super glue instead of plastic glue, obviously because it's going over the green stuff. Once again, kind of just integrating this whole model together a bit more. Now I'm going to leave that for a second to dry before we end up doing some more green stuff work to that. And while we're waiting, what we're going to do is we're going to get this necklacey rune thing from the Primaris Space Wolf's upgrade sprue. Now I wasn't really sure about using this because I'm guessing Kaiser's probably used this on other models already. And I wasn't really sure if it really fit well on this model, but I felt I needed something on the chest area, because normally I'd maybe file away the Aquila or something like that, but because the Aquila is so embedded into this model, it goes like right up to like the neck area and stuff, I didn't want to make too much of a mess. So yeah, I just glued this necklacey thing on. I thought it was a pretty good, nice detail for this model, and like I said, it adds a bit more wolfy flavor to the chest area, and I've got to stop saying wolfy flavor in this video as well. Now I felt that one leg next to the horn was feeling a little bit empty. And also, like I said before, I feel like Wolf Priest should probably have a bit more like bags and pouches and stuff like that. So I just slapped on this little pouch thing. I think it's from the Death Watch Kill Team. And yeah, just stick it on over there. It fit pretty much perfect. Add a little bit more bulk and character to the model. And maybe he has some more healing things in there as well. And now I want to add a bit more like savagery to this model. And also the backpack was a little bit boring. So what I'm going to do is, first up, I just cut one of those like little nibby peg things on top of the backpack, because I'm going to stick a skull on top of that. And the next step, well, was just finding 2 skulls that I wanted to use. And as you can see, I went for a Tau skull and just a standard human one. And as always, you need something to make it look like these skulls are like nailed into place or strapped into place or something like that. So I got out some of my handy dandy Age of Sigmar warrior kit kind of stuff. And I just found something with like spiky teeth, cut the teeth out, and I just glue it to the top of the skull. So like I said, they look like they've been pinned in by like a steel spike or something like that. But obviously you can do whatever you want. You can make your own spikes out of green stuff, or do some green stuff, leather straps, anything you want. And with that, the last thing to do really is make some leather straps for the horn. Like I said before, you don't want to just floating there, it needs something holding it on. And as always, we're going to roll out a nice kind of baguette sausage kind of bit of green stuff. Get it to the kind of width and length that we want. Then I'm just going to use my hobby knife or my toothpick or something to flatten it out so it looks like a nice strip of leather. So the first thing I do is I kind of wrap it around the actual horn itself. Now I'm going to do that at the bottom and at the top. Just using my like toothpick and stuff like that to get it into the shape that I want, tucking it underneath the horn. And we will be adding some texture in with the hobby knife and the toothpick and stuff just to make it look a bit more scarred and roughed up. Then all we do is we take another strip, kind of press it into the bit that's on the horn already, so kind of blends it together. And I just get the strip up and kind of tuck it underneath the fur pelt there so it looks like it's getting tied onto the belt or something like that. And I do that on both sides, getting both leathery straps to meet almost like in a triangle at one point. Once again, I don't know if this is making any sense, but yeah, just create a kind of leathery strap handle holding it onto the body. And while I had the kind of leathery strap bits already made up, I just thought maybe I'd break up the kind of armor of the model a little bit more on the front there and just add a leather strap to the shin pad. Give it a bit more of that wolfy kind of look instead of just like flat armor panels. So yeah, basically exactly the same thing I did with the horn, just getting the strip of leather kind of tucked in behind the armor on both ends. And what I also do is I use the tip of my hobby knife or toothpick like I do here and just push it in on the edges there so it kind of looks like it's pulling a bit tighter and it gives it a bit more place for like washes to go again and places to highlight. Obviously move it into the direction that you want, and again hobby knife to add some scuffs and rough it up a bit as well. Like I said before, one of the great things about Space Wolves is there's so much you can do with them, but also you can use the same kind of techniques, just repeated them in different kind of ways to get, well, lots of different textures and cool little bits for your models. But with that all said and done, the model is complete. Now I'm going to cut to a nice little spinny showcase so you guys can have a proper look at this, and I'll get back to you guys. And there we have him, ladies and gents, in all his wolf priesting glory. Now, like I did say to Kaiser as well, because he has the model at this point, I don't really know if it really reads as a wolf priest / chaplain all that much. But, you know, as long as it looks cool, that probably is all that counts. But yeah, I hope, Kaiser, if you're watching this, I hope you like the model. And to everybody else, let me know what you think. Do you think this thing still kind of looks like a wolf priest a little bit more? Or does it look almost more like a battle leader or a wolf lord or something like that? Either way, let me know what you think, if you like it or not. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, definitely do that, because I release hobby content like this every single week. Obviously like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you do fancy going that extra step further to help support the channel and help keep my bits box full and all that kind of stuff, then I do have a Patreon where I've got some rewards and stuff like that, and obviously a merch store as well. And as always, got to give a shout out to my patrons, and that is Marshall's Miniatures, Irish Rock 1987, Brother Loken, and Tic Tac Dough. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys. As always, I know I say it every single video, but that extra little bit of support really helps out. And also, like I said before, for anybody else, I do have various rewards, and if you want your names in these and all that kind of stuff, and voting on my next kind of hobby videos and stuff, then definitely check out my Patreon and see it's something, well, if it's something you would be interested in. But until the next video, guys, bye bye.